Now I've told you we're recording, we are typically recording. So we'll just go to the next slide. What we will do, if it will let me do that. Oh, we seem to have got stuck. Okay, so if you go into the plan on the website, and if you like I can take you out and show you that, but if you go into the website and click into your pages, you'll see this document in there. So basically what we have, the first thing you'll see is a list of instructions on how to use it. So basically what we'd say is this is the second part that goes with the document in that you've already seen, so the situation analysis, all of the tools and work kits that we've put there together. So what this does is this is the bit where you actually start to bring that together and say, what are we going to do with all of this amazing information? And what we say is normally this document is set up to run over a 1 to 3 year time frame, but what we do say is you need to have planned, but then you do need to have some flexibility in there. Things crop up, things happen, and if we take it from there, it's really important to think about that. You know, we talk, for example, about weather patterns, and I think in the week of, you know, Hurricane Irma and following on from Hurricane Hubert in the US, you can see how those kind of things might very much be things that we can change our plans. Similarly, we saw Christchurch, who are actually a customer of this program, you know, prior to the major earthquake, they had one very specific set of plans and strategies that all completely changed overnight. So what you want to do then is to say, right, what is the plan, the roadmap to get us to our objectives? So the first thing we're going to talk about is setting those objectives and what some of those objectives might look like. And then beyond that, then what we'll see is that what you're trying to do is answer a series of questions around things like the business objectives that you're trying to achieve. So those, you've increased visitor numbers, for example, increased revenue, who you're going to target, how you're going to do it, who's going to do what, and how they're going to do it over what time frame, what budgets you've got to set aside, because obviously if you don't have budget set aside, it's going to be pretty hard to do this. And then obviously as evidence-based researchers, we're very much in the plan of saying, look, you know, you need to be able to know what you're going to do. So what we're actually then trying to do is to say, how are you going to measure progress? Now, I'm going to be very upfront with you. This is probably the billion-dollar question in tourism. Measuring ROI is can be hard, and everyone from the top to the bottom of the industry just wrestle with this. So what we've tried to do is say, bearing in mind what you're likely to have to spend, what are some really practical goals and tips that you can take into that? Okay. Now, what we've done here is we've used a typical action plan for you. So here are some of the things that we would put in there. So the action plan, as we say, it's objectives and goals, it's strategies, it's tactics, it's budget, it's evaluation. What we've tried to do in assembling the tools is to do around 80 to 85% of the work for you. The last bit of that is what you do yourself, or you can use this as a tool to brief a consultant to help you with that. And that arose from a vision that we had that around 85% of the core work is actually quite common across plans, and we sort of started to feel a bit uncomfortable about charging people $15,000 to $25,000 to do this work for them when we could standardize it and do it for the $1,500. So let's turn now to our objectives. Now, definitely what we would say on this is these need to be realistic and they need to be personal to your organization, and they need ideally to be measurable, but there can be some qualitative measures in there. Now, what we've tried to do is to say at all times that old thing about being SMART is very important. So specific, measurable, actionable, relevant and reasonable, and time dependent. And these are all examples of that. So, you know, in saying, right, well, our aim is to increase visitation by 3% in 12 months. We've launched our website. We know that that's a critical measure in driving conversion. We want to increase visitation. My preference is that these would always be measures around outcomes. So, you know, how are we going to make more money from this? My ideal is that we would be looking at measures like yield, but some of these other measures are important intermediate goals. So if we've looked in the past and said, you know, click to call inquiries, we know are very predictive of sales, it's good to have some of those intermediate objectives in there to say that that's really important. So are we, and thinking about this, and we'll talk about this in more depth as we go through across the path to purchase. So what are we doing to feed the top of the funnel, and how are we pushing people through the funnel all the way to the end? And then how are we becoming a learning organization that says, this didn't work, why didn't it work, what do we do about it, or this did work, how can we replicate this and keep driving this through our organization? And 5 key things that you need to think about in developing that. So again, we've tried to keep this simple. One can have very long and complicated lists, and you know, I personally remember when I started working in marketing and research, you'd have huge books of this, but what we've tried to do is to make this very simple. The first of those things is to make everything that you do work really hard for you. So, you know, this would be things like consistent brand communications approach. We've done this as an example. We wouldn't say this works for everyone, but we basically say if you're doing these things first, if you don't know what else to do and you haven't done these things, you should start with these. So creating online assets, trust, reputation, and authority, having a good content marketing strategy that works with your branding. Don't worry, I am going to talk through these in a little more depth. De-risk your business. Social media is very exciting, but one of the things we say about social media is it's the difference between renting and owning a property. Policies and situations with social media can change very dramatically. As I mentioned at the start of this webinar, Bron's actually off today doing our Tourism Marketing Rockstar event preparation for this Thursday, and we hope some of you will be there. But basically 2 years ago, when we were holding a similar event, one thing that we saw quite interestingly was it was one of the days where Google changed its algorithms. And what we actually saw was things suddenly changed. People were dramatically dropping down in search. Similarly, 2 years ago, we saw we had an event around our VFR research, and we suddenly saw that Facebook had changed its policies on what people could and couldn't see, and suddenly their traffic was halted. We actually don't have control of that. So we definitely believe that you need to build your own digital assets in terms of content on your own website. We're very passionate about the opportunities for local market when travelers are in destination, late in that purchase funnel. And the other thing is something that both says, how are we keeping our existing customers on tap and how are we acquiring new customers? So as I said, these are examples, but they're examples that if you haven't got any other idea where to start, these would be probably the most important places to start. So let's talk through some of the tactical actions on that. So as we said, the first of those is to make sure that you are adopting a consistent brand communications approach. And that's both in knowing who you're talking to and thinking about very conscious decisions about how you're doing that. So going back, before you get to doing more detail on your tactical action plan, you need to have populated your situational analysis with your brand blueprint and decided from the situation analysis on your primary personas. And then once you've got those two things in place, you know who you are and you know who your customer is. And then you need to operationalize that into a series of guidelines. So you have an internal procedural document, and we encourage you to make this available to everyone in your organization and to educate everyone. A brand is not decided or owned by the marketing department. It's not really even owned by the organization anymore. But what we should say is absolutely every touch point where your customers meet you on the path to purchase. So that could be, if you're a national park in your visitor information center, the most junior person there who greets customers or who opens the door or stacks the shelves is there. So they should always be thinking about this, and you've got all of that there. So make sure you've got that as a series of guidelines. Make sure you know what you've already got. So we definitely recommend cutting a brand audit of all of the touch points that you have. So where do you touch the customer? How are you doing it? What are the tools that you've got? And are these fit for purpose? In many cases, you'll find that what you already have is a very rich source going forward. But sometimes the customers you have now are not necessarily the customers you may have in the future. So it's really, really, really very, very important that you are thinking about that and thinking about, are these going to be things that will help us with those objectives and strategies that we've created? And then you need to be what I'd call flexibly anal retentive. So you need to be saying, okay, are we talking to our customer in that right voice? Is this how I should speak to Karen, the solo traveler that we have in our persona library? Or if you've created your own personas, is this how I am talking to people who are what I'd call pushing the boundaries, travelers who want to go out there and do adventure? Are the people you're putting in your photos, are they people that your core target personas can identify with? Are you showing them interacting with your product? Are you showing the ways that people are engaging? And as I say, make sure that everyone knows how to use this and brief this. Marketing departments shouldn't just look outwards, they should always be thinking about inwards and that communication onwards. And of course, it's important to make sure that you are briefing all of your communications agencies on this. You know, obviously you can get them to sign non-disclosure agreements because this is your IP, but if they're not clearly understanding who you are, so what's your brand blueprint and who your customers are, they can't do their best work for you. Review, review, review. So see what's working, action it's there, make sure that what you've got's there. So just a quick reiteration on personas. We did talk about this in an earlier coaching call. You know, so that buyer persona is a representative of our ideal customer based on all the work we've done. They're tremendously important, and basically the three questions that you need to ask are, is this important? Are we talking to their pain points? And are we communicating the things that resonate with them? As I say, imagine always that you're trying to talk to that person. So every time you're doing any kind of content, any kind of marketing campaign, always ground it in that. Now, I notice a couple of people have joined the call a little later, so I'm just going to reiterate a couple of things. The first is today is not about beautiful imagery and nice big pictures. What we're doing is getting into the nitty-gritty of our tactical action plan this morning. So what we're trying to do here is to take you through that. The document's all there and ready for you to download to guide you in doing that final bit of oomph to develop your own marketing plan. And this is the bit where we probably start to pass the baton to you in terms of doing things. We will be taking questions at the end. And finally, just as I said, an apology because Bron is not able to join us today. So you're dealing with Carolyn. You'll have heard me talk on the branding sessions and on the applying trends because we tend to divide these up. Bron is off doing things ready for our Thursday Tourism Marketing Rockstar event, which we're getting really excited about. So questions at the end, and I'd be more than happy to take any of those. Okay, so we talked about our personas in the past, and again, just an example of one of those personas. So going back to those personas, thinking about who they are, thinking about really thinking in their place about who they are. Here's Karen, Shell's best friend, as we said, so that you've actually got those people in there. So you've got that understanding of who you're talking about. If you're looking at VFR hosts, again, you've got that persona there. So we've got all of those personas there and that we're using and talking about them continually. We're thinking about our pets. We're thinking about the activities we've got there. We're thinking about the emotions that sit behind that. So as we said, we do know our VFR visitors and families. For that segment, for example, that emotion is tremendously powerful. So what are we doing that we should really almost be living in this world? When we talk to our customer personas, I'm almost sat at their desk or on the phone, sat at their side when they're on the phone to me, trying to think about those things. And I'm going to apologize, we have very low-flying aircraft over our webinar location today, so if you hear that in the background, that's telling me I've still got a job because we still have customers flying in. We talked about use of imagery that's both resonant and consistent, and just to reiterate, here are some examples of that for the senior section. So if you are looking at marketing to you know, our new young travelers, these are some of those images. So show them interacting with destinations, show them filled with energy. Don't necessarily show them old people, they don't necessarily see them there. Talk to how they're feeling, talk to what they're relating about. So think about and curate your images very carefully. Do not do tired, do not do cliched. If you're a senior yourself, look at yourself and think, would this be an image that would appeal to me? test your images. You know, if you've got members of staff, it doesn't always have to be an expensive external research exercise, even though obviously we love doing focus groups and discussing those with people on your behalf. You know, get a group of images, tip them on the table with a group of people in your company who are close to your customer persona, or, you know, source friends and relatives. That's what they're there for. I'm constantly using my family as a laboratory for these things as a way of testing things cost effectively. And Bron and I use that, and we use many of our friends and allies in the marketing community to test, you know, the resonance of those things. If you're talking about ageless marketing, again, thinking about those imagery that conveys that. If you're talking about multi-generational travel, look at our great image in the middle here of our family all off for a day's hiking. You know, they look real, but they're kind of glamorized version of real, and they're doing things. They're happy, they're enjoying things. You can see that they're all excited for their day off. You know, we encourage you not just to show landscapes, because landscapes can be beautiful, but they can be alienating. People in the landscape enables us to step into their shoes and do things. And actually, if you look at a lot of the imagery that really resonates with people, there's some kind of life or activity or story to it. Okay, so remember to talk about those benefits. So when you're developing your communication, you're talking to your personas, and you're being consistent, what are the functional benefits that you're selling? What are the emotional benefits that you're selling? So what are you saying to people? Is where you are easy to get to? Conversely, if it's in a very remote area, so let's take I don't know, the Green Cauldron or the Scenic Rim up in Queensland. If you're talking about those locations, it's, you know, chance to get away from it all. Your emotional benefits, reconnecting, you know, having fun together, doing things you don't get to do at home, stepping outside your comfort zone. You know, think about how you're using words to describe that. Think about how your imagery is supporting those feelings all the way through. So again, describe your experience, words that appeal, that represent who you are, and always be bringing those two things together. Okay, we've talked about this many times, but I don't think we can emphasize too much how important the other, so not just Tourism Research Australia, but TRA is trust, reputation, and authority. And as we said in the branding conversation, that's both trust, reputation, and authority in the eyes of the consumer. Because in our attention poor age, if you have that trust, reputation, and authority, it's a mental hook that cuts through the clutter of everyone else's communication, but also for the search engines in enabling people who don't currently know you to get to you via that strong content marketing. So what we need to be thinking about there is always looking at the idea of creating fresh content on a consistent and regular basis. Now, are we saying, we've never actually said, what we've always tried to do with the marketing plan blueprint is to make sure that we are minimizing effort. But there is still effort. What I like to say is this is effort that is more effectively applied. So when we talk about applying effective effort, what that means is that the time you currently spend not knowing what to do, not knowing if things are working, being sure what to do, the mental effort in there. If you're planning and doing this properly, there will still be some effort, but it will feel more rewarding because you'll see the results of that. And we've actually had some of the businesses who've been joining on this webinar email us and say how they've applied this principle, and they've really seen results, which for us is just the most fantastic and moving thing. Because, you know, yes, it's about the money because we've all got mortgages and bills to pay, but that's really why Bron and I created the business. So for us, those stories are personal and beautiful. So, you know, basically what you're doing is bringing that emotion into something that the machine learning, the algorithms of the major search engines like Google, you know, major one in most markets of the world, Baidu in China will use the same kind of machine learning algorithms so that it can actually look at it and say, this brand suits this customer at this point. So again, if you've done all your thinking, that's where it's there. So basically, that should be always fitting with those guidelines that we've talked about. It should be of interest and it should be of use. It should help me on my way to choosing you. It should inspire me to come to you. It should help me plan. It should help me do those things. Might be different things at different things. So meeting people, as we say, across the path to purchase and making sure that we are there. And again, when you're creating that, you've got that coming back to the personas. Feels a little repetitive, this session, but I do find it so important to embed these things in there. You know, what will it appeal to? Who is it targeting? So some things, you know, wet weather activities for children, for example, is going to be for families. But, you know, things to do in wet weather might appeal to all sorts of different people. Following elements of that you need to do, so you need to check what you've already got, and it's fine to repurpose and reuse things and make sure that it's there, and be updating and reminding people content's there, creating fresh content, having process for doing this, and agreeing who is looking after content and how you're doing it. Now, that doesn't always have to be one person. But what it does mean is if you're encouraging people across your organization to do things, which actually we do encourage, it's making sure that they know how to do it. They know where the guidelines are. So what I like to think of this is you're not putting them into a straitjacket saying you can do this or you can't do that. There must be some no-nos, you know, material that's obviously offensive or inconsiderate, or illegal would all be things that you'd avoid. But guidelines that encourage people, as I say, to know your personas and to post things where you're telling them that here are the things that you can do, very much that's helpful to be doing, and you can open up and it can actually make it more efficient. So, you know, if you've got somebody who's a really great and vibrant young millennial who sat on your, you know, service information desk who has downtime, why not empower them? But empower them by giving them, rather than the straitjacket, a playpen, where you say, these are where the boundaries of what we do are, and within that, you know, knock yourself out, because that will really be very empowering for people, and all of our audiences are there. So very, very quickly, when we talk about meeting consumers on their path to purchase and then how search engines can help with that, we talk about this as being around 7 stages. Now, I always like to say this is like a flat map of the world. You know, the world is a slightly elongated ball. So when we put it on a flat thing, you know, we are trying to kind of, you know, do it in a different perspective. Broadly, all of these stages still exist. It's now considered a little bit unfashionable to think about it in this way, but every time I start listening to the people who say that, they start coming back to these kind of descriptions. So you're moving from dreaming, as I said, inspiring people, evoking an emotion, being micro moment ready, because they might be planning that while sitting at the bus stop or while waiting for a train. Okay, so you've provided that trigger, or something around them has provided that trigger, ideally you, because then you own the relationship. They're starting to go out there and look for plans. What you need to do is make this factual, make it easy to find. Think about what are the barriers to going further. So, for example, we use the example of China. You know, a Chinese visitor, if they're going internationally, their first step is visas. So, you know, if you're trying to target the Chinese market, it doesn't have to be your content, but, you know, have a link to the relevant pages that show where visas are. You know, booking at this point, again, you do need to make it very easy. You need to make it, you want to make sure there's the least amount of friction in the way to people getting to you. So attractive and simple, not too much small print. Now, almost inevitably in our regulated age, there's going to be small print. Keep it to a minimum. Think about how user-friendly your language can be within the legal restrictions. Sit down with your legal team. Sit down with your lawyers if you don't have an internal legal team. We had Alyssa Antcliffe on the phone from Antcliffe's Lawyers last week talking to that. You know, lawyers are your friends. They often don't want to do those rules in any way that's rigid. They want to protect you. So think about some of those things. Don't hide the price. I don't buy from people if they make it hard for me to work out what I'm paying. Why would you? And I'm sure you don't. Why would you do it? Once they've booked, what we call post-booking anticipation, you know, it's real. So now this is your time to upgrade. This is your time to sell them things that are on that and to validate the experience and get them talking about the experience so they're driving your marketing. So upgrades, offers, useful things like packing lists, what to expect. Don't, if you've got a clear line of sight to communicate to the customer, do not miss this opportunity. Set up email trails to say, we notice you're coming in X number of weeks. Would you like to know about this? Would you like us to book this for you? Would you be interested in these things? We're really excited, looking forward to see all sorts of ways to engage the customer. when they're on the way or when they're with you, being mobile, searchable, and being ready to find. Remember that they're scared, but they're excited again at this point. So make sure that they feel welcome. I recently, travel overseas. Booking.com is great at this. They'll actually say, be planning for your trip. You're on the way. Here it's doing. These guys know how to do that. So think about those things. Minimize risk. When they're in destination, again, think about the fact that they're going to be searching for things there. So make sure, for example, can you rotate, can you be pushing out content to people or updating based on the weather? So if it's sunny today, what about posting something in your Facebook feed or your Google Plus feed that says, it's a beautiful sunny day. Don't forget to bring your sun cream. Here are 5 things to do. Here's the sea temperature. Remember what the tidal tables are, so thinking about those kinds of things. What are you doing to facilitate sharing? Because again, sharing is telling people the search engines are going to look at user-generated content, and it's powerful. Tourism Australia is considered to be the destination that has best done this of any national tourist office, and it's all built on spontaneous use of user-generated content, and doing that and curating it and training consumers to do that. So I would say if you go and have a look on their website, you'll see all the guidelines and webinars they've got for that. It's a very powerful way forward to do things. Okay, moving swiftly through. What are some of the things you need to be thinking about in developing that content marketing plan? Lots of questions here that you need to be thinking about. So who's the who? What content's required? Where on that path to purchase I've just chatted you through are you meeting them? What have you got? What are the gaps in what you've got? So again, always thinking about ways you can reuse content and refresh content and making it very efficient. Good old 4 P's of marketing then. Where will we put it and how will we do it? And what are your plans for doing this? And how are you working that into a real thing? Stretching yourself a little bit. We like to think rubber bands in everything to do with marketing and branding. But, putting it into your plans, how are you doing it? Having in some key dates in mind. And then finally, that most important thing, what will we use to measure success? How will we embed learning and improving our marketing in our organization? Going forward. So how are we going to do that? Okay, so here are some examples of what that might look like. And again, all of the tools to help you with this are on the website for the Tourism Marketing Plan Blueprint. So do make sure after this session, you go and you kind of have a look at that. So here is an example of a content plan that thinks about what we want to put out for people across the path to purchase. And this is, as we said, for a seniors audience. So we've got a thought about what we're doing at each of those stages. There's a lot to take in here, so I'm not going to talk it through. But you should be thinking about populating it with this kind of density of information going forward, and how you're going to do it, where you're going to do it. So this is a really simple one. This is one we've actually guided destinations to use in the past to great success, I might say. So we do know that we are talking about proven approaches here. If you're not quite sure what to do and seniors is a market for you, feel free just to, do not have this do 90% of the work for you. Again, look at some other options here. So traveling to a beach destination, this is an example we created for someone with a beach destination. So, ebook opt-in email list, the 10 local secrets, the best beaches for swimming, where to go to eat. Can you put some deals out in the market for people to actually encourage them to actually book something, because that's there. What are people doing? Facebook ads, we actually use Facebook ads in our business. They're a very cost-effective way because you can really target the people you want to do. Please make sure your content is bookable, and please don't make people, but what you have to bear in mind, for each piece of friction that you put in the case of someone booking with you, that you are losing customers who want to give you their money. You are turning customers away. Please make sure you do that. Again, once you've got them on your radar, apart from anything else at that point, you control them. Once you've got them there, tell them what's there. Tell them when things are open. tell them what are the things to expect. Maps, apps, signposting in websites, that's actually partly true. But really thinking about this, really making sure that you are optimized for search. Have you done your Google My Business? You can now create all sorts of cool stuff in Google. You can upload videos now. Google is really hungry for your content. Google wants to showcase great places. It is looking to embed its global domination by giving customers a great experience and getting you to help them do it. So the idea at this point is we create a win-win-win. You get fabulous content showcased that engages customers who want to come to you, customers find what they need, and Google gets to be the most powerful business in the world. Okay, so how are you populating that content marketing strategy? And again, this is a tool that's available to you in the Tourism Marketing Plan Blueprint, and it's a tool that's available for you in terms of doing this, and it's one we use ourselves. So here's an example. We looked at January, obviously it's school holidays. You know, what's the topics, what's the hashtags, how are you going to do it, where are you going to do it? And we do this for our own business. So for example, that's why Bron's off doing everything on the content marketing for the Tourism Marketing Blueprint at the moment. We're doing our late bit, we're doing our anticipating stage with everyone who's signed up, and we're pushing through the sales of the last few bits, and she's putting deals out and emailing you right now. Okay, how you can measure that you've done a good job. Some of the most simple ones, how are you getting people down, the attrition from people viewing it, downloading or listening? What's then going on in terms of where it's going? You can measure some of these things very simply and for free, so Google Analytics or other web analytics programs, YouTube Insights, and those kind of tools can help you. How many downloads? So for example, on our CRM platform Infusionsoft, we can tell what people have done, we can tell which pages triggered it. We're currently running some software on our site where we can see where people are dwelling, so we know where to put things. Sharing is a good measure. So consumption's a start point. It's not everything, but it's a good thing. It's thinking about how big's that overall demand pool. How often is it shared? How is it shared? Now, again, likes, shares, and tweets are all good examples. It's not enough on its own, but do keep tab of them because it is a measure of those things going. And again, likes are good, but shares are better because shares is actually people aligning their brand with you. So all of these can be useful measures. They're not perfect, but they are, you know, a good basic way to do it. It's not the whole story, but it's there. So lead generation. How is this driving leads? So can you see that your leads go up? Is there a clear connection? Form completions can be one way to do that. Are you seeing an update in subscriptions to emails and blogs? How often are you seeing within your CRM systems? Tip, if you don't have a CRM system, I would get one. It's going to be one of the best investments you make, not without pain, but definitely there. You know, how often are you seeing people who started on the website do that? What's the process by which you're seeing them going through? Sales metrics. You should be able to understand through things like your e-commerce system, if you can track people through that, that's there. Don't be afraid if you get offline sales, if you get people phoning you or coming into a store or whatever, ask them how they found out about you and check that. Really record and get information. So people come in and phone you or you get walk-ins, record how they found out about you, record why they chose you. Ask people questions. People love to be asked about this stuff because it shows them that you care, that you're interested in what they're doing. Running out of time, as always on this one, it's such a meaty section of the blueprint. Okay, de-risking the business, as we said, from social media, building digital assets. As we say, it's basically we want to use social media as a brand building platform. There is some role for distribution. Click sites and all of those things are important, but if you're only doing that, it's risking that if the rules change, that you're not in control of that, because most of us are not powerful enough to tell Facebook or Google or Twitter or Instagram what to do. We have to just work around them. So basically things that you're posting in social media, I'd start thinking about how you can build those digital assets. You must have a website, include a blog, make sure it's mobile friendly, and make sure it's snackable and it's informative. There's still a place, by the way, people often think that means that there's not a place for the long form blog. There still is a place for a long form blog. They do different things. That's a chance to explore. So have a look at any idea or piece of content and think, can I do a long form piece? Can I do a Twitter piece? Again, this is exactly what we do for our business. Make sure you have a database of contacts. Make sure that it's easy for people to opt into them. Make sure you know what people are doing there. So that databases are actually incredibly valuable parts of any organization. That contact thing is there. Make sure it's in line with privacy principles in whatever jurisdiction you're in. So we're based in Australia, so that's Australian privacy principles. If you think you're going to want to ask people questions, obviously, as researchers, we tend to make sure that you've got people having the opportunity not just to receive things from you, but also to be communicated with you about things like research. Making sure that you've got and created, so yes, you've got videos and you're posting them to YouTube, but make sure they're on your website and your digital assets, and make sure that you own some of those, that you've got your own images, that you've got your own stories. Keep a library of those, keep a digital asset register of that. Your email database, how do you grow that? Opt-in sign, make it somewhere very prominent. Inbound marketing campaigns, so autoresponder messages, how you send them out. So basically have a plan that says, okay, if somebody comes from here, what's my path to talking to them about this? So you actually build a whole series of emails, again, automated and thinking about this, that can be built over various times where you're kind of doing it. It'll take you a little bit of trial and effort to work out when to communicate with people, but definitely getting that information out there in terms of doing that. Structured monthly newsletters. This is really important in saying to people, stuff's going on in your business, because stuff is going on in your organization, says it's worth me rethinking about you and keeping you front of mind. Just reiterate, make sure that all your assets are mobile friendly. So if someone's getting a newsletter or a sales pitch letter from you, they click into it on their mobile there and then, they can do that. Make sure you're keeping everything that's up to date that sits behind that as well. A digital assets library. This is one that is very, very important, but does need good process in place. Make sure this is somewhere where everyone can get to it. Ideally stored on the cloud or in some kind of network place. It's not dependent on Jean has gone on holiday, so no one can actually find that video. Because let's say you do a great piece of content, you put an email out, Jean goes on holiday, someone in the press picks it up, wants to do an email about it, wants to get a copy of it, no one can find it. Make sure it's there. Make sure you keep it up to date. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be an Excel spreadsheet. What it does, we're always in favor of, this is corporate knowledge. So you've invested in this. The more it's available for you, you can use it again, the better. So make sure you've got all of these things and that it includes all of the things you use, your videos, your image library, events, key dates. All of these things should be featured in that digital assets set of resources. Make sure if you're using any third-party content that you've got people to sign off. So if you are interviewing customers or you've got volunteers in things, make sure you've signed off all of the paperwork on that, because those things can go horribly wrong horribly easily if you don't. If you're developing a campaign with an ad agency, make sure you've got the right to use all of the images in that. I recently had a case where I was writing a blog piece, admiring the content of Tourism India. And a campaign that was created for them by a major ad agency. The imagery they'd been using was from a central image library, and they hadn't bothered to get that imagery done so that people like me, bloggers like me, could go out and do that. So, I then get an email and have to negotiate with one of the big stock image libraries because they think I've done their content, and I should have checked that it was there before I used it, but because it was coming from a source like that who wants me to talk about it, I thought that was in place. So make sure you've got it in place, make sure it's clear that it's in place, make sure that if you're getting bloggers to use your content, that they've got that too. Video is really important. As we've said, getting that video out there, that digital assets library. It doesn't always have to be professionally shot. We do a mixture of both. So there are certain types of tasks like our onboarding videos. We're increasingly shifting from those being DIY to being professionally shot because there are some key messages we need to get out there and they're important branding issues for us. But in the tourism space, you know, authentically DIY can sometimes be really great. You know, someone posting a video where they're showing around, and I hope some of you were able to join our webinar last week where we talked about things like virtual reviews, etc. You know, get people to share some of this stuff. Have a mixture of things. So do have some of the professionally produced beautiful content, but also encourage people to be using that and get people to do it. If someone posts a great video or image on your social media feed, go to them and say, can we use this? It's really important to make sure that you do that. So here is some of the examples that we've seen. So here are some really, really great examples of one. So this is Scott Dunn, who's a tour operator. This is his YouTube channel. Some really, really great content that he's got in here. So he's got what's hot for, this was an old image, but we've kept it because we still love it so much. We've not seen any reason to update it because it's still best practice. You know, we've got families on there, meet our nannies. We're coming with you. You know, what are the best days? Different types of destinations that he's coming out with. Lots and lots and lots of great stuff. So they've got customers interviewed, they've taken imagery on for meals, they've got imagery of the staff back there, they've got customers doing testimonials, they've got pictures of some of the experiences. This is really, really a great way to use video. Step number 4. Okay. Local to-do list. As we've said, local is vital these days. This is where mobile is really important. If you're a destination, make sure all your local operators and businesses on site. It's relevant to more and more and more businesses. So get information out there on the location. Don't just talk about your business. Talk about other businesses in your place, because again, what that says to the search engines is that you are truly local. So let's say you're a B&B, talk about your local national park. Similarly, if you're a national park or a recreation area or a nature reserve, talk about the places to eat that are close to you. Talk about the historic sites. Make sure, for many, many people, there isn't going to be one hero experience that triggers it. It's going to be a sense that if I'm going to a place, there's going to be lots for me to see and do, there's going to be somewhere for me to sleep, there's going to be somewhere for me to eat. So, you know, get together locally and agree to cross-promote and cross-share. Remember, make it useful, make sure the consumer will feel it's valuable, make sure it's authentic, make sure you show it like it is, maybe a slightly idealized version, but don't mislead people. As I say, share what you've got and think about curating it in ways that are loyal to your persona. So how is this going to look for your VFR hosts? How is this going to look for an older audience? So, you know, if you've got fantastic walks, are you curating them to say, look, we've got a great trail here that's really, you know, anyone can do this, be fabulous for people, you know, a family who might have members who are in a wheelchair or have a bit more difficulty in mobility, they can have an amazing experience together here. Similarly, this is where real adventurers go. So think about curating your experiences that way and making it there. So a local to-do list. Make sure locally you are on Google My Business. This is a free resource. This is probably the most important place to do. Try and get people to produce reviews. I know it's hard, but keep asking. You know, set it up. I quite often see the signs and people have the TripAdvisor one up, but my favorite was a motel in Bathurst where they had it on either side. So here's where to review us on TripAdvisor, here's where to review us on Google+. Google have now cut the number of reviews that you get, but you need to get before they'll do a big showcase on you. I think it was 5, it's now down to 3. Post as much, even if not many people are using Google+. Bron has trained me on this. If you love Google, Google loves you back. Think about the search terms that people might be using for you. So this is the kind of things that might be near me. Are you using language that makes it easy for search engines to do that near me? As you go along, having a look at all of this stuff, you will find things that you miss. Just keep filling things up and make sure you're always thinking about, where's somebody going to be looking at this? Are they looking at this in the car as they come into town? If they're doing it and you don't have great Wi-Fi, which sadly for many remote areas is true, how can I get that content in front of someone when their phone's just binged as they drive into a destination and they know they've got mobile coverage again? How can I make it so that they're going to come to me first? Think about that and always be thinking in your customer's phrase. Collate and curate, as we say, a selection of local experiences. Create it in destination for your strategy. Always be thinking about that. Think about where to get it. People want to know what's going on around them. You know, they'll want it in real time. How are you making this there? Sign up to be a Google local guide. So I'm only a level 2 or 3, Bronze a level 7 Google guide. Anyone can be a Google guide. Get people in your organization to sign up and talk about things. It keeps the whole destination on the radar. It gets populated, it gets reviewed. So see how many of you can get to be part of this. And actually you'll find people find it quite empowering and fun, and people love to be fit, to feel like they're experts. So consider doing this yourself. It's really not that hard, and it will actually help your searches a great deal. Okay, action number 5, the fifth and final one. A communications plan that's targeted to our year. So, you know, targeted to our personas and searchable. So this is 2016-2017 financial year. We haven't updated it, but this is broadly it. So who are our personas? And we've said, for example, are your personas here seniors, VFR, and you're pet friendly? We really love that image. And we do say, what can you do that's pet friendly? So here's the framework, and again, all of the frameworks are available in the blueprint. So have a campaign template like this, and you're free to use this one or create your own. What are you trying to achieve? That should always be number 1. Who? What are you offering them? Time and money. What's your budget? How are you doing it? What are the tactics? What's the distribution channels? How are you going to measure success? If you think back to that series of questions we did earlier, this is where your communication plan really starts to bring all of that back together. So again, here's one we prepared earlier, which is one for VFR hosts. So we're trying to, this is for a destination who's trying to say, look, we're trying to get them to recommend more attractions, shopping and dining. What are our personas? So you've got those, you've written that back somewhere. What are the products and services that we're trying to do? How much have we got to spend? What are the tactics? Where are we going to do that? And here are some of the examples of how we're going to measure it. So we're going to say who's opening our campaign web pages, how many are clicks through, how many people are discussing it on social media, how many people we've posted some material into YouTube, how are we doing it? You know, if we did our local, so we've got a VIC open down, this is something we encourage anyone who's got a visitor information center to do. Invite the locals in, make them feel included, make them feel like it's their place. So you've done that. Have you got videos of that? Have you got videos of people going, oh my God, I'd forgotten this was here, how great is this? Are you using it as a place where you can actually get people to then start posting? How are people driving that? Where is it viewing? Traveling in pets, similar type of structure. So public spaces, where are the vets? Dog walking routes. You know, if you've got areas where you don't want dogs, it's important obviously to let people know that they can't bring dogs there, but it's just as important to say, here are all the places where we would love to see our furry friends. So where can they go? Who's got pet-friendly stuff? What are places where you can go? What are places where people can get water for animals, where there's a nice shady place to take their pets? All of these coming through. See if you're getting inquiries about pet-friendly stuff. Is that driving it? So again, examples of this that you can refer to in the website. ROI. We always recommend that you are thinking about how am I doing this. If you're not doing it, you're doing what we call hope marketing. So you're like spending the time doing the market, sticking a finger in the wind and going, oh, I think that went all right. If you're going to measure things, it's not enough just to measure them. Do make sure you know what you're going to do with it, and make sure you do something with it. So when you're planning this, it's okay, This is how we're going to measure it. Here is our plan for saying when is the learning being incorporated and what are we going to do with it. As we say, this is not an easy area. Absolutely every destination, every business in tourism struggles to measure ROI. It's, you know, well over 50 years ago, the old saw about a half of all advertising is wasted if we knew which half we'd stop spending on that. It's still there. But Neil Patel, who's one of the gurus in this, says that while any individual metric doesn't do it, if you start building a library of metrics that you can use together, then it can actually help with this. So determine what you're measuring and tie this to your strategic goals for your business. So what are you trying to achieve? How are you going to measure it? Tie that and have a few different measures. So it's not enough to say, oh, well, look, we got 50,000 likes on Facebook. It's what then happened. How many people did we see go on to share it? How many inquiries did we get? You know, how long did people spend with that content on our website? How many people? So try and build a kind of group of evidence that works together. As we say, coming back always to those goals, looking at your website, so definitely make sure that you can do a successful website tracking strategy, make sure you can measure this. There are free tools to do this like Google Analytics, and definitely you can start to see that. Similarly, if you're buying things like Facebook ads, just as you do with ads in the real world, you know what you've spent, see what you've got, see whether any of those delivered, and ideally linking it back to your CRM system. If you're doing more broad traditional marketing, get your agencies from the very beginning to tell you how they're going to measure the success, have an intelligent conversation with them about it. Don't be afraid to push back on the measures if you don't feel they're sufficient to drive this, and then get them to come down and get them to work with you on driving recommendation. Ideally, I'd recommend that you track this yourself, but you should have a conversation with it. Here's how to do it. So determining your strategy, creating a baseline, so always have a benchmark to see what's happening. Go out and do what you need to do, collect your data, keep updating, keep adjusting. Some of the example goals you could be looking at, you know, so leads, sales, revenue, people reading blog posts. You know, ideally ones, things like they've gone in and looked at something where they're going to give me money or come to see me. So think about some of those. So here are about 20 different measures that you could go away and incorporate in there. You know, look at how many people are searching for your business or destination name, or types your domain name directly into the search bar. So here are some of those. Constantly be coming at this. So rinse and repeat is very, very important in this area of ROI. ROI on social media. Again, we've given you a lot of detail in there in terms of doing this. Please bear in mind why people are interacting in social media. Now, increasingly, social media are being commercialized. People are getting used to being advertised too. But do remember that the key reason people are in social media is to connect. So, you know, making it engaging, making it fun, making it valuable are going to be much more important than wow, here it's here, unless you've got something really tactical that you know people love. So if you've got a Friday afternoon deal that's too good to miss, but keep the language always, it's just as important with tactical communication to be on brand as it is with your you know, your bigger, more strategic communication. Make it fun. Make it something that you can do. If you look at what we did with the Tourism Marketing Rockstar campaign, we've always tried to be doing it in that fun way. So, you know, who's the Ed Sheeran of things? What are we doing with that? How do you want to be part of it? So do this, and all the same rules apply. What are your goals? Which platforms best fit your goals? And that's around where your customers are going to be, how much time they spend there, and what they're doing there. It's better to do one or two things well in the social media space. It's better to understand the restrictions. So, for example, what is it that Facebook are doing? You know, who's going to see it? Because not everyone sees anything anymore. All of these are things. Here's a little bit of preparation we did around that. And I've just realized we're coming up to time. We did start a little bit late, so I'll keep going. Great graphic to work this through. So here are ways to think about this. Who, where, what's going on, what's there, what it's for. Great infographic from Melissa Lita. We've put that in there for you to do. Some great examples of measures of social media. So here is the stuff from Neil Patel. So measures of social media, things that you can use to measure. If you're posting stuff in social media, Facebook and LinkedIn and all those guys send me things all the time, so do be thinking about that. And again, we've listed here all of the measures and how to do this in very, very practical terms. And come quite close to time, I am happy to take any questions. If anyone has any questions, please put your hand up and we can deal with them. Otherwise, have a great day. Anyone, anything to say? I know, apologies in advance that it was a lot to take in, but this is really when we're getting to the pointy end. We will be posting the recordings of this. All of the material is available on the site, and we will be repeating absolutely every single one of these webinars for you. Okay, so thanks for joining us today. And if you're coming to the Tourism Marketing Rockstar event on Thursday, we do look forward to seeing you then. I'm going to leave it on the screen for a minute or so more. Well, see if anyone's got any questions. No? I've dinned everyone into it. I'd keep it simple. Know why you're doing it, know who you're talking to, know what you're doing, know how you're going to measure it, work out how you're going to do it. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Feel free to drop either Bron or myself emails afterwards if you do get some questions. Otherwise, have a great morning.